So I'm sitting there in my room and I'm reading a book, right? And I read the first sentence, the second sentence, the third sentence, and I've forgotten the first sentence already. And so I go back to like reread the first sentence, but I'm not in my room anymore. It's 2020 and I'm in my math class and I've just been thinking about some embarrassing thing I did. I'm not present. I'm not like focused on reading this book. I'm just thinking about the past. I'm just thinking about other things. And so I'm like, okay. Let's stop thinking about the stuff. Let's stop thinking about the stuff. Let's go back. Let's focus on this book. So I go back to the top of the page. I read the first sentence, the second sentence, the third sentence, the fourth sentence, and I've forgotten the first two sentences. Like what? What? What's going on here? This has been a pretty common experience for you, hasn't it? When was the last time that you read a book and this hasn't happened, where you read a couple sentences and then you just forget what they said? You read them and it's like they're just in one eye, out the other eye. You don't even remember what you just read. This has been a very common experience, hasn't it? So how the fuck are you gonna learn anything when you can't even remember what you read? This is like a basic human skill and nobody could do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't even fucking read. Can you actually read? Most people, they probably can't actually read. People think they can read. People are like, yeah, I can read just fine. If you can't absorb the information properly, if you can't read a book and be like, okay, I remember what that page said, then reading is fucking pointless. Why the fuck would you do it then? You need to be taught how to actually read properly, and this is some bullshit that school has taught you, that you have to read one book at a time and you have to read cover to cover. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Me personally, when I read books, I probably have like 5, 10 books open at a time. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh no, but I have to finish this one book right now because I'm not gonna do that. Why would you do that? Because, hold on, just think about it like this, right? Let's say one day you're interested in learning about money, business, and so you read a book about that. Okay, sweet. Let's say the next day you're not interested in that anymore. You're interested in learning about fucking like willpower or some shit. But you have this small dick mindset of like, oh yeah, no, but you see, I have to finish the book because of the. What? Why? You don't need to do that. You should always follow your current curiosity, because that's how you're gonna learn the best. Because think about this. Every time that you've read a book, you've probably only ever really read a book, like finished it, like from cover to cover, when you wanted to, when it was like a book that you wanted to read. You never wanted to like finish a book cover to cover when it was just like some random book that like your teacher assigned to. So it's the same concept. You need to follow your current curiosity, because that's how you're going to learn the best. That's how you're going to learn most effectively. You don't need to have this mindset that once you start a book, you need to finish the book because like freaking Mr. B from fourth grade said so. What? No. That's how you actually fucking read. Like you can have 20 books open at a time. That's fine. Like, that's how you learn. That's how you absorb knowledge like properly. You don't just like read one book at a time. And when you're reading, it's like Listen, like highlighting doesn't do shit. Like these people, they say like, oh yeah, you know, you should highlight, you should like, you know, take notes and stuff. It's like that doesn't really do anything. The best way to actually absorb the knowledge that you know is to connect it into the like your knowledge web. Basically what I'm saying is, let's say I'm reading a book. Let's say I'm reading David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. And I read a sentence that clicks in my mind. What I can do is I can underline that sentence and I can write a little note on the side that's like, this relates to what my dad said about whatever. This relates to this one video that I watched. Now you can do this in like a regular like paperback book, but I highly recommend getting a Kindle because you will read more. In fact, that's an actionable step right now. Like that's an action step for you to take right now. Go on Amazon, go on eBay, and just buy like a cheap Kindle. Like go on eBay or some shit. Like they're like $40, dude. Like chill. Buy a Kindle because you will read more, and when you buy it, this is why I like Kindles more than like reading in paperback books, because it's like this small little thing and you can read like 100 books at a time instead of just like having to carry them around. So let's say I'm reading The Way of the Superior Man, right? This book right here. What I can do is I can highlight a sentence that like clicks in my mind. That says like, oh yeah, like I've heard about this before in this other book, or I've seen this video before by this guy and he said this, which is similar to this. What you can do is you can highlight it just like that. And you can click note and just write something. What does this connect to? Does it connect to a different book? Does it connect to something that someone said to you? That's how you actually learn. That's how you actually like develop like a greater knowledge base. It's not by just reading and highlighting and taking notes. You don't just want to highlight. You don't just want to take notes. You want to highlight the most important things that click in your mind and then take notes about them. So this is what I've done with my Kindle. This is what I've done with all the books. You can see like I have a bunch of notes on a bunch of different pages. That's how you develop like a greater knowledge base. It's not by just reading, not by just taking notes, not by just highlighting. That doesn't really do anything. You need to connect it to like the greater knowledge base. And you need to do this immediately, by the way. Like once you read a sentence and then it clicks in your mind, immediately like grab a pen or like something like that. Grab a pen, highlighter, whatever. Highlight that sentence, circle that paragraph, underline whatever, and just take notes about it. Just connect it to something that you've seen before, because that's how you actually learn. And you need to do this immediately, by the way. You need to do this immediately, because if you don't, you're going to forget. This idea is going to stay in your mind and you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's a cool idea. And then you're going to keep reading and then forget about it like 20 seconds later. If it's in your mind, write it down, underline it so that you can save it and look back on it later. Always think of your future self. How, like, let's say your future self is going to end up struggling with something, because that's going to happen eventually. What if for a couple months you've read, or you've finished reading, let's say like 10 books, and you've taken the actionable step here, you bought the Kindle, and you've highlighted and you've like actually wrote down like good notes that connect to your greater knowledge base. Your future self can look back on this and be like, oh yeah, I'm grateful that I wrote this down, because I can refer back to it later. If you have an idea in your mind, it's not going to stay in your mind. You're going to forget it like 2 minutes later. So you need to do that immediately. Hope this video helped you, bro. Take care.